Welcome. Today we are stepping into a future that already feels like a memory. A future of gray, decaying cities, of posters that watch you with unblinking eyes, of a language that is being stripped down, word by word, until thought itself becomes a crime. It is a world of fear. A world of lies. A world where the truth does not simply disappear, but is deliberately, systematically, and completely destroyed. We are opening 1984, the dark, terrifying, and endlessly relevant masterpiece of George Orwell. It is a book that was meant to be a warning. And it has become a prophecy. George Orwell was not writing fantasy. He was writing from the edge of his own grave. It was 1948, and he was living on a remote island in the Hebrides, his body ravaged by tuberculosis. He had seen the rise of totalitarianism in Europe. He had fought in the Spanish Civil War and had seen the betrayal of the revolution by the communists. He had watched as the language of politics was twisted into a weapon, as the lies of the powerful became the reality of the masses. He was a man who believed in the power of the truth, and he was terrified by what he saw happening to it. And so, in a final, desperate act of clarity, he wrote this novel. He called it The Last Man in Europe at first. But then he changed the title. He simply inverted the last two digits of the year he was living in. 1948 became 1984. He was not predicting a specific year. He was describing a permanent possibility. The world he created is called Oceania. It is one of three great superstates that have divided the world after a devastating war. Oceania is ruled by the Party, a monolithic organization that controls every aspect of human life. The face of the Party is Big Brother, a figure of immense, paternal authority whose portrait is everywhere. The slogan of the Party is painted on every wall, repeated in every broadcast, and drilled into every mind: war is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. The citizens of Oceania are watched constantly by telescreens, two-way video monitors that cannot be turned off. Their thoughts are policed. Their history is rewritten. Their very language is being systematically reduced, a process called Newspeak, whose ultimate goal is to make rebellious thought literally impossible. This is not just a police state. It is a mind state. Into this world, Orwell places his hero. He is not a revolutionary. He is not a fighter. He is a small, middle-aged, and utterly ordinary man. His name is Winston Smith. He works at the Ministry of Truth, the department of the government responsible for rewriting history. His job is to correct the past. He changes newspaper articles, alters photographs, and deletes the records of people who have become unpersons, those who have been vaporized by the state. He is a tiny, insignificant cog in a vast machine of lies. And he is, secretly, quietly, and dangerously, beginning to remember. He is beginning to doubt. And that doubt, in the world of 1984, is the greatest crime of all. The story of Winston Smith is the story of what happens when a man tries to keep his soul alive in a world that is trying to extinguish it. This is not just an analysis. It is a descent into the heart of a nightmare that never ended. Part 1, Winston Smith, the last man who still hoped. Winston Smith is not a hero in the traditional sense. He is small, thin, and physically weak. He has a varicose ulcer on his right ankle that pains him constantly. He is 39 years old, but he looks much older. He lives in a dilapidated apartment building in London, which is now part of a province called Airstrip 1. The air he breathes smells of boiled cabbage and dust. The streets outside are gray and crumbling. And everywhere he goes, from his apartment to his workplace to the streets, the telescreens watch him. They broadcast the constant, droning propaganda of the Party, and they listen to every word, every sigh, every suspicious sound. He is, in the eyes of the Party, nothing. Just another worker ant in the great, grey hill of Oceania. But inside him, a small, dangerous fire has begun to burn. He is beginning to hate. And he is beginning to remember. His crime begins with a simple, seemingly insignificant act. He buys a blank book. It is a beautiful, old-fashioned thing, with creamy, yellowed pages, a relic from the old world before the party. Buying it is a crime, of course. Writing in it is a far greater one. The simple act of recording his own thoughts, his own private doubts, is a direct challenge to the party's absolute control. But Winston cannot resist. He is drawn to it, as if by an irresistible force. He sits in the one corner of his apartment that the telescreen cannot see, and he opens the book. He writes the date at the top of the page. April 4, 1984. And then, his pen begins to move. He writes, over and over again, the words that will seal his fate, down with Big Brother. The rebellion has begun. Not with a bomb or a speech, but with a whisper on paper. And it is here that Orwell introduces his most terrifying idea. The party does not just control what people say. It controls what they can think. And the primary weapon in this war is the destruction of the past. Winston works at the Ministry of Truth. His job is to alter history. He rewrites old newspaper articles so that predictions made by the party always come true. He changes speeches so that the party is always right. He deletes the records of people who have been vaporized, those who have been erased from existence. He does this for 8 hours a day, in a vast, labyrinthine building of gray corridors and flickering fluorescent lights. And he knows, with a cold, sickening certainty, that he is not just lying. He is destroying the possibility of truth itself. For if the past is constantly being rewritten, then the past no longer exists. And if the past does not exist, then there is no standard by which to judge the present. The party controls everything because the party controls memory. This is the core of Orwell's warning. He is not just telling a story about a bad government. He is showing us the mechanics of totalitarianism. He is showing us that the first thing a tyrant must do is not to build prisons or train armies, but to take control of the truth. Because once the truth is gone, everything else follows. The past becomes a fantasy. The present becomes a lie. And the future becomes a prison. Winston, the little man with the blank book, is fighting against all of this with the only weapon he has left, his memory. He remembers a time before the party. He remembers a different world. And he believes, with a desperate, unshakable hope, that if he can just hold on to that memory, then the party cannot truly own him. He is wrong, of course. But the beauty of the book is that he tries. Part 2, Newspeak, How to Kill a Thought. The Ministry of Truth did not only rewrite history. It also planned the future. And the most terrifying part of that future was not a new weapon, not a new prison, but a new language. It was called Newspeak. The purpose of Newspeak was not to help people communicate. It was to make communication impossible. The party understood something that Orwell understood better than almost anyone: if you can control the words, you can control the thoughts. For we do not think in ideas alone. We think in words. And if a word does not exist, then the thought it represents becomes incredibly difficult, and eventually impossible, to form. A man who does not have the word freedom cannot long for freedom, because he cannot even name what he is missing. The goal of Newspeak was to shrink the vocabulary. Every year, the dictionary would lose words. Words like rebel, free, truth, and justice were not banned outright. They were simply allowed to fade away, replaced by their opposites or by crude, mechanical terms that stripped them of all nuance. The English language was being reduced to a series of slogans. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. These were not just lies. They were replacements. They were the new vocabulary of a world where doublethink had become the only way to survive. Doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs in one's mind at the same time, and to believe both of them. It was the ultimate mental discipline. It allowed a man to know that the party was lying, and yet to believe the lie with complete sincerity. It was the key to surviving in a world where the truth had been abolished. And this is where Orwell's warning becomes truly chilling. Because he is not describing a fantasy. He is describing a process. We have all seen it. The way political language is used to soften the blow of terrible things. The way words like freedom are twisted to mean their opposite. The way complex debates are reduced to empty slogans. Every time a politician uses the word peace to justify a war, they are speaking Newspeak. Every time a corporation uses the word family to sell a product, they are speaking Newspeak. Every time we accept a euphemism without questioning it, we are allowing a little bit of our language, and a little bit of our thought, to be stolen from us. Orwell was not afraid of a future where books were burned. He was afraid of a future where books were simply no longer necessary, because the words to write them had ceased to exist. I think about this a great deal, Melesias. As someone who works with words, who builds stories and tries to find the exact right phrase, the idea of Newspeak is especially horrifying. Because it represents the death of everything I do. It is the deliberate, calculated destruction of the very tool of thought. And Orwell wrote it all down, not in a dry, academic essay, but in a single, unforgettable image. It is a conversation between Winston Smith and a man named Syme, a linguist who works at the Ministry of Truth. Syme is a true believer. He is not forced to work on Newspeak. He loves it. He speaks of it with a kind of religious fervor, explaining how the entire project is aimed at making thought crime literally impossible. He is so cheerful, so enthusiastic, so utterly convinced of the righteousness of what he is doing. And Winston, listening to him, realizes with a cold horror that Syme is not a monster. He is a perfectly ordinary man who has been completely and utterly absorbed by the system. He is the end result of Newspeak. A man whose mind has been so thoroughly conquered that he no longer even knows he is a slave. Part 3, Big Brother, The Face Without a Face. There is a poster that hangs in every home, on every street corner, in every public building in Oceania. It is a simple, devastating image. A face. A man's face, perhaps 45 years old, with heavy black hair, a rugged, handsome jaw, and a thick black mustache. The face seems to radiate a calm, paternal authority. The eyes are dark, piercing, and they follow you. No matter where you stand, no matter how you try to avoid them, the eyes of Big Brother are on you. Beneath the face, in bold, stark letters, are the words that define the entire society: Big Brother is watching you. The poster is not a work of art. It is a threat. It is a promise. And it is the most powerful symbol in the entire novel. But who is Big Brother? Is he a real person? Is he a committee? Is he even alive? No one knows. The party never confirms or denies anything about him. He exists only as a face, a voice, a presence. He is not a leader in the traditional sense. He is a god. He is everywhere and nowhere. The great, terrible genius of the party was to understand that an abstraction is far more powerful than a person. A person can be killed. A person can make mistakes. But a symbol, a face on a poster, can be perfect. It can be everywhere at once. It can see everything, judge everything, love everything. The citizens of Oceania do not fear a man. They fear an eye. And the eye is always open. And it is in this world of constant surveillance that Winston Smith does the most dangerous thing imaginable. He falls in love. Her name is Julia. She is young, beautiful, and, unlike Winston, she does not brood about the past or dream of rebellion. She is a practical rebel. She breaks the rules because she enjoys it. She has had affairs with party members, has forged documents to get food, and has committed thought crimes without any sense of guilt. She is the embodiment of a truth the party cannot admit, that the body, and its desires, are the first, and last, battlefield. When she first approaches Winston, he thinks she is a spy, sent to trap him. But she is not. She is a fellow rebel, but of a very different kind. She does not want to overthrow the party. She just wants to live, to feel, to be human, for a few stolen hours. Their affair is not a grand political statement. It is a quiet, desperate, and deeply human act of defiance. They meet in a secret room above an old antique shop, a place the party has forgotten, a pocket of the past left untouched in the gray present. There, for the first time, they are free. This is the central tragedy of Winston's rebellion. He believes that love is a force strong enough to break the party. He believes that the human heart, in its raw, beautiful, irrational power, is the one thing the system cannot control. And for a while, he seems to be right. In the little room above the shop, he and Julia create a small, perfect world of their own. They are not just lovers. They are survivors. They are the last two people on Earth, as far as they are concerned. But the party is patient. The party is always watching. And the eye that never sleeps has seen everything. The trap has already been set. The strange, kindly man who owns the shop, Mr. Charrington, is not an old, harmless relic of the past. He is a member of the thought police. The room, which Winston thought was a secret, is wired with hidden microphones. The love affair was never a secret. It was an opportunity. It was a way for the party to let Winston grow comfortable, to let him believe he was free, before they tore him apart. The dream was always a cage. Part 4, Room 101, The Ultimate Price of Truth. The dream did not last. The arrest, when it came, was swift, brutal, and utterly without warning. The door to the little room above the shop was kicked open. The hidden microphones had done their work. Winston and Julia were dragged out into the cold, gray street, and the trap snapped shut. They were separated. Winston was taken to the Ministry of Love, a place of pure, clinical horror. It was not a prison in the ordinary sense. It was a laboratory of pain. The hallways were white, sterile, and utterly silent. The cells were small, cramped boxes. And the questioning, when it began, was not a search for information. It was a process of total destruction. The party did not just want to punish Winston. It wanted to remake him. It wanted to take the small, stubborn, truth-loving soul inside him and crush it into nothing. It is here that Winston meets O'Brien. At first, O'Brien seemed like a fellow rebel, a high-ranking party member who secretly belonged to a secret resistance movement. Winston had trusted him. He had confided in him. But O'Brien was not a rebel. He was the most loyal of them all. He was a member of the thought police, and he had been watching Winston from the very beginning. In the cold, white cell, O'Brien did not just interrogate Winston. He educated him. He explained the true philosophy of the party. The purpose of power, he said, was power. Not for the good of the people, not for some future utopia, but for the pure, naked, and absolute love of power itself. "We shall crush you down to the point from which there is no coming back," O'Brien said, his voice calm and terrifying. "We shall squeeze you empty, and then we shall fill you with ourselves." The goal was not to kill Winston. It was to convert him. To make him love Big Brother. The method of conversion was torture. But not the crude, physical kind. The party had perfected a scientific, psychological method of breaking a man. They used electric shock, but they also used the very concepts that Winston had once believed in. They twisted his love of truth, his faith in memory, his belief in the human spirit. They showed him that these things were weaknesses, illusions. But the final, the most devastating weapon, was Room 101. It was a room that contained the single worst thing in the world for each individual. For Winston, it was rats. He had been terrified of rats since childhood. And in room 101, the party had prepared a cage full of them. A mask was placed over Winston's face, a mask designed so that the rats could be released into it. The animal terror, the raw, overwhelming panic, was absolute. And in that moment of utter, primal fear, Winston Smith screamed the words that ended his rebellion forever. "Do it to Julia. Do it to Julia. Not to me." He had betrayed the only person he had ever loved. The last, crumbling wall of his soul had fallen. And so, the party won. Winston was released. He was not executed. He was not kept in prison. He was sent back into the world, a hollow shell of a man. He sat in the Chestnut Tree Cafe, listening to the endless, droning propaganda on the telescreen. He drank cheap, bitter gin. And he thought about his life. He no longer felt hatred for Big Brother. He no longer felt love for Julia. He felt nothing but a vast, empty, and peaceful acceptance. He had been cured. The last, faint flicker of rebellion had been extinguished. The man who had tried to remember, who had tried to tell the truth, who had believed in the possibility of a better world, was gone. In his place was a man who loved Big Brother. The final, terrifying sentence of the book is not a scream of despair. It is a quiet, gentle, and utterly devastating confession of defeat. And so, the story of Winston Smith comes to an end. He did not win. He was not a hero. He was broken, completely and utterly, by a power that was stronger than his will. And that, perhaps, is the most terrifying thing about 1984. It is not a story of resistance. It is a story of annihilation. Orwell did not give us a happy ending, because he did not believe one was guaranteed. He wrote the book as a warning. A warning that the forces of control, of lies, of linguistic and psychological manipulation, are not just the stuff of distant dystopias. They are always present, always waiting, always ready to consume the small, fragile, and infinitely precious thing that is the individual human soul. George Orwell wrote this book in the shadow of a totalitarian century. And yet, we are still reading it, still debating it, still using its language, decades after his death. We still talk about Big Brother when we talk about surveillance. We still talk about Newspeak when we talk about political language. We still talk about Room 101 when we talk about our deepest fears. The book has become a kind of cultural shorthand for the dangers of unchecked power. And the central question it asks us is as urgent now as it was in 1949. When the pressure comes, when the fear comes, when the lies are all around us, will we have the courage to remember? Will we have the courage to tell the truth? Or will we, like Winston, eventually learn to love Big Brother? I am Melesias. This has been the story of 1984, as I have understood it. Thank you for listening. If this dark journey through the heart of a nightmare has moved you, please subscribe. And remember, the most dangerous thing in the world is not a lie. It is a lie that no one is willing to question. Until next time.